Hello, YouTubers. If you don't know, I am Jared Taylor. You are at the Core Thoughts vlog, and I am the owner and CEO of Core Business Analytics. We are a research and analysis company born on the shores of Canisius Lake in Livingston County in Western New York. We are at the western edges of the Finger Lakes, and we have Rochester about 30 miles to the north of us, and Buffalo about 60 miles to the west. Syracuse is about 60 miles to the west, to the east. And what we do is we leverage comprehensive research and analysis into strategic insights for closely held small and medium sized businesses. And I started the Core Thoughts blog because, as the tagline for the business suggests, we believe that knowledge is core to freedom. And we want to provide meaningful analysis for business owners to help them become more free from their business. So often, a business owner is struggling to separate themselves from their business. They are their business. Even most of the time, the business is their own name. And it's hard to work on your business when you are forever and always sort of working in your business. And through the efforts that we make at Core, we want to provide more freedom for business owners to live the life that they would like to live versus living the life that their business kind of deems that they have to live. And so today, in that light, what we're doing is we're doing a brief sort of introductory overview of Google Analytics, and we're going to go through the user interface, and we're going to kind of touch on some of the key points that Google Analytics covers on behalf of business owners. It just in quick summary, Google Analytics collects data and information related to online traffic for your website and your social media posts and accounts. So what it does essentially is it takes all of this user data and condenses it into this very user-friendly user interface. And so we'll get right into it. So this is the Google Analytics homepage, and today we are looking at the Google Merchandise website. So this is the demo account that comes with every Google Analytics property, and you'll see that, obviously these are very large numbers, and don't I think it's important to note that this is probably not going to be typical for most businesses, especially if you're a smaller local business. You're not probably getting 14,000 users in 7 days, but that's the beauty of this demo account, is that it fills out all this information for us so that we can see everything. And so we'll get right into it. So you'll see that right here, in the last 7 days, there have been over 14,000 users of the Google Merchandise shop. And I guess real quick, the Google Merchandise shop is an actual website. It's a real place. You can go there, and that's where you would legitimately buy Google Merchandise, t-shirts and hats and whatever it is that Google makes and sells, you can buy there. So this is real information. So I think what's important to keep in mind about this is, like, just pretend this is your website and we're just going to go through it. And as I work with clients, this is exactly what I do. I kind of walk them through this, and this would be their actual information. And we would take all this real data and we would leverage that into insight and action that the owner can use to improve their marketing, to improve their website, to improve any number of things that throughout the course of this web series, you'll see what is possible with this. And it's not just about websites, and it's not just about social media. This can help you engineer a more refined business. And again, we can't wait to get into all of that. That's a little teaser. So, okay, here we go. We'll click on this revenue tab here. You can see that over the last 7 days, the website has generated over $43,000, which is, I think every business owner would be supremely pumped with that. 43,000 in a week. That'd be awesome. It'll break it out by day. So you can see that on March 7th, which was today is March 8th. So March 7th is yesterday, obviously. And that was a good day for them. This is over time, as you get used to using your analytics property, you'll see, why these spikes are important to keep track of and to, be mindful of. Because let's say hypothetically, Google, they ran a commercial, or they ran, a marketing campaign on, starting on Friday, and it ran all weekend, but it didn't really gain any traction. And then all of a sudden on Monday, when people were back on their phones, and maybe Monday is in general just a popular day for people to buy Google merchandise, they saw this pretty gigantic spike relative to the previous 6 days. So if this was your business, for example, and you see that you had a spike on one day, and you know that you posted something, a day before or a couple of days before, you can sort of use that to measure the effectiveness of those marketing efforts and how that actually translated into revenue for your business. So that's just, we're still on the home page, and I feel like you're already excited to learn more about Google. This conversion rate is sort of a more advanced topic that we'll get into at a later time, but essentially, you can create goals on your website through your analytics property. You can create a goal. Let's say that you want customers to go from your homepage and you want them to then visit your services page. That would be a goal. And you create that goal, and you would see how many people are actually converting that goal in your website. So, I don't think this number right here is too telling. We don't know what their goals are. We don't know what this conversion rate is exactly measuring. Once you get into this tab, you'll be able to see a more specific breakdown of what this actually means. But hypothetically, let's say for every percentage point that you get on a conversion rate is equal to $10,000 for your business. All of a sudden now you're talking about $26,700. So, again, this is a more advanced topic. We'll get into that a little bit later, but conversion rates and goals are very important when running a website, and refining your website into being a tool, a very useful tool for your business. Websites aren't everything, but they can be extremely effective tools in driving traffic and driving revenue for your business. So real quickly, this last section is the sessions, and from here, the user number and the session number tend to go together. Once we get into the audience and acquisition tabs, we'll have a better understanding of what the relationship is between those two things. But essentially, if you have essentially one user equals one session, and if you have more sessions than users, that means that you have returning users that are coming back and adding a second session or a third session. And that's a very telling thing for a business owner, because it shows you that people find your website informative and valuable, and they're coming back again. And that's a very important thing to know. So right here, this is a quick little summary of the actual real-time activity that's going on at the Google Merchandise website. You can see that there's 29 active users on the site, and this little timeline goes back to a half hour. So you can see on a per minute basis how many page views you're getting on your site. And as we, advance further in this web series, this information will it'll become a little more meaningful to you. But for now, just understand that Google is actively measuring this information in real time, and you have the ability to see in real time where people are visiting on your website. So we'll get into that in a little bit. It's got its own little tab, so we'll go ahead and scroll down here. So real quickly, how do you acquire users? Traffic channel refers to are they typing in your web address directly into this URL bar and visiting you that way? Are they clicking on an advertisement that you had paid for? This display and affiliates, these are all sort of kind of linked together. So essentially, this is measuring how people are visiting you. So if you are running a lot of online advertising and you'd want to see how that's generating traffic for your site. So this will help you kind of quantify that data. Um, the source and medium is kind of just a further breakdown of the traffic channels. So we'll get into that as we go through here. Um, so active users, this is a pretty useful metric that you can use to see how people are they visiting your site, and then are they coming back? You can see over the course of one day you have two and a half thousand active users. Over the course of 7 days, you have 14,000. Over the course of 30 days, you have 57,000 active users. And this, for our purposes, is not really telling at the very moment. But if you've ever seen, like the Facebook movie, for example, if you're big into tech and you like learning about, like startup tech companies, and if you've ever seen that show, Silicon Valley, for example, active users is critical if that's your type of business. You need people coming to your site every single day in order for your business to grow. And that's not true for everybody. Everybody's business model is different. If you're a restaurant, for example, or if you're a hardware store, or any other number of business types that there are out there, active users isn't really as important as it would be for Facebook, for example. Again, we'll come back to this at in the future, and we'll probably end up having this will have its own video, I would imagine, because it's a very complex sort of characteristic of Google Analytics that requires a little more detail and a little more time to get into. This user retention section, again, we're just on the home summary page of Google Analytics. So all this information that we've already gone through, imagine if you aren't using this for your business, imagine how much you've already learned about your website and about your online efforts. So how well do you retain users? And again, if you have an e-commerce store and you're selling a lot of products online, you want people to, yes, you want them to visit you once. So this would be week 0. But then are they coming back a week later? Are they coming back, week 2, week 3, week 5? And are they making purchases, 5 weeks later? If they are, that shows you that that customer really likes what it is that you provide. If you saw that none of your users are being retained after the first week, then it would help you maybe refine your marketing approach. Maybe you need to, specify exactly what it is that you sell. And maybe you're not showing everything that you sell. Maybe the reason that people aren't coming back is because they just don't know that you can provide them other things that they need. So this is it's an interesting metric that, again, isn't telling for all businesses, but for certain businesses, it's very important. This section, I think, is probably what is, I'd consider the most popular information that your typical Google Analytics user who isn't maybe a master data analyst, and they're not looking to get into all of the nooks and crannies of Google Analytics, but they want to see when people are visiting, where they're visiting from, and what they're visiting on. So, if you are big into social media and you're posting often, there's a lot of debate about when's the right time. Is it Mondays? Is it Fridays? Is it morning? Is it lunchtime? When are the best times to post a lot of content online? And it's going to vary on a case by case basis. For one business, it might be one time of day and one day of the week. And for your business in particular, maybe it's different. And what this will do is it will highlight the high traffic times of users by time of day on your website, and also by day of week. So again, if you're posting a lot of content, you might not want to post it Saturday night at 11 p.m. because the data that's being measured on your website shows that there's not, relatively speaking, there's not that much traffic on your site at that time. You would probably want to pick one of these darker sections. As you'll see down here, it's all color coded. These are obviously, if it's dark blue, that means that it's a high concentration of web activity. So, you probably want to post maybe just before that peak. Like you have this little transition part where, maybe in the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock on Wednesdays, you want to post something so that by the time it's uploaded and it's live for everybody and it gets displayed on all the different networks, that it's available for people to now view it at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. So all these peak traffic periods for your website, you can kind of better target those times when it comes to posting stuff online. And social media posting isn't the only reason why this would be valuable information, and we'll get into more of that in a later video. So where are your users visiting you from? For a company like Google, obviously, Google is Google, and they're going to get traffic from the entire world, except for Greenland, apparently, and parts of Africa and the Middle East. But if you're a local business, you'll see that when we get into this location overview tab, that you can further break this down into cities and regions. So if you're a small local business, and for me, for example, I'm in Livonia, New York. If I saw that all of my web traffic was coming just from Livonia, then I would know that obviously that's where my primary customer base is located. And if I'm spending ad money on Google ads or Facebook ads, I'd want to kind of geographically concentrate all those marketing dollars into that specific location. It wouldn't make sense for me to run a very expansive Google ad campaign that covers all of Western New York when most likely I'm not going to draw that much traffic from those other areas. So, you'll see once we get into this location overview that the information that can be ascertained, as a business owner from here is very vital, especially as it relates to your marketing campaigns and marketing budgets. So we'll definitely spend a lot of time on that. You'll want to make sure that you check that video out when it's posted. And then the other, I'd call it, one of the more popular data points that Google analyzes would be, what are the top devices that people are visiting you on? Is it desktop? Is it mobile? Are they on tablets? And this becomes important, especially as you're posting on social media. If you're familiar with Instagram, for example, the format of your video and images is a square. It's a 1x1 square. And so if you saw that a lot of your traffic was coming from mobile devices and maybe they're visiting you because of an Instagram post that you have on there, you want to kind of build on that, and you'll want to maybe spend a little bit more time developing additional content for Instagram in particular. And you'll want all of your videos and everything to be recorded and edited in that proper format so that it's viewed properly on the devices that people are visiting you from. If, for example, you saw that maybe you're not getting any traffic from mobile devices and all of your traffic is coming from desktops, then you would have to be, you don't have to be as mindful of different formats. A computer can handle, many different formats. And so I think it ends up saving you a lot of time knowing how people are interacting with your site. If you're posting pictures on your website, if you're posting video, if you're even building the site in general, you'll want to know how that information is being received by the user. So this helps you get into the shoes of your users and understand how they're interacting with your site and how they're experiencing the information that you're providing to them. So again, this will probably be its own video on its own. And, we'll definitely come back to that. And so we'll just kind of scroll through a little bit more. Again, this is just the homepage. We haven't even gotten into, the nuts and bolts of what makes Google Analytics so amazing. But, This little section right here, what pages do your users visit? This would be telling, let's say hypothetically, you have 6 pages that comprise your entire website, and you see that users are only visiting actually 3 of the pages. The other 3 are just not being used. They're not being visited. It provides that information to you so that you can look at those 3 pages that are not being utilized and figure out maybe why they're not. Maybe the formatting is not correct. Maybe the link is broken. Maybe it's just a poor user experience when people go to those sites or go to those pages on your website. So that information can be extremely telling to help you build a more well-rounded website. And if this is also important to know, if you see that a lot of people visit your homepage and then they visit, like your online store, and that's, let's say hypothetically, that's the vast majority of all your web traffic. Maybe you want to just kind of further develop those pages, and you want to add sales. Like you want to put notifications like, hey, visit the store page and receive 10% off your next purchase, things like that, where you can leverage this information into action and help drive revenue, because it's a business, right? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to create the best experience possible for your customers, but you're trying to make money also, and you want to do so efficiently. And that's really what the point of Google Analytics is. It's to drive efficiency, and we hope that so far you would agree with that statement, and that you want to learn more about how to run a more efficient business, how to run more efficient online property, and we're going to help you. So how are you performing against goals? We kind of touched on goals when we were discussing the conversion rate, and that's a slightly more advanced topic that we'll kind of skip over, for the time being. Um, but this is also, the final sections on this homepage, would be, how are your Google ad campaigns performing? So for every Google ad campaign, if you're not familiar, it's assigned a unique reference ID. And as you run a Google ad, every variation of that ad is tied to that specific ad number. And Google Analytics will be able to track somebody that clicked on one of those ads that you have through that campaign, and they'll be able to measure the number of clicks, how much that particular action cost you, and how much revenue you're generating from that. So you can get that information from the actual Google Ads webpage itself, but it's nice that this consolidates it all into one single user interface. So you can see all of this all at once. You don't have to bounce between different sites. It's just a very consolidated look at all of your online efforts. And I think the consolidation factor of Google Analytics really is kind of the key selling point to all of this. It provides so much information in such a unique and simplified kind of data stream. And what's nice about this homepage is that you can edit. You can go through. This will be a whole another video. We'll get into the admin part of all of this and how to set up your account. So you can see that. Obviously, there's a lot of information here that we're just not going to get into, but the point being that you can customize this. If you don't care about real-time users, you can substitute this report, and you can add your own specific report, and we'll help you do that. We'll help you build this custom homepage so that a lot of times you can just quick log in and see where you're at. We'll create the summary files that you're looking for, and you just you go in there, you take a look, and then if you have any questions, by all means, you can reach out to us. But it saves you a little bit of time in terms of not having to click into all of these other sub tabs, which that's what we do. So if you're not into spending that much time and you don't really want to get into all of the meat and potatoes about this Google Analytics meal, that's what we're here for. We'll help you customize all of that. So here you can see all these custom reports that you can run. And again, this will be its own separate video. We're just kind of touching on the high level elements to Google Analytics. So Uh, well, we've got a couple more minutes here. We'll just kind of real fast just go into the overview sections under each one of these tabs, and you'll see additional breakdown of all this data and how you can use it to better understand your business, to better understand your online efforts. Um, so here again, this is just a summary of current activity that's going on your site right now. Um, for the Google Merchandise Store, apparently 93% of the people that are on there right now are on a desktop, and think that that's important. Because if you're on a desktop, let's just say hypothetically, if people are visiting on a desktop, that means that they're probably not visiting you from Instagram, for example. Like most people are going to be on a mobile device when they're on Instagram, and then from Instagram, they click on your link to come to your website. Um, you know, that would be the order in which that occurs. So I think that over time, if you just see that you have the vast majority of your traffic coming from a desktop, perhaps it would be time saving. You'd save a lot of effort, and maybe you don't have to spend so much time on social media. Maybe it's just not a big driver for your business. It's not true for everybody. There's a lot of companies that thrive on social media, they need it. But I think if that was the case, then you would see a higher percentage of mobile users right now. And again, this is just a live snapshot. So over time, these numbers will probably average out and it'll probably be a little bit more of a balance. But um, just a quick little insight. So here you can see that this would be the areas of where people are visiting from. You got a couple of people in Malmo, Sweden. Shout out to KK. Hey KK, I know you're out there. Um, he's from Malmo. If you didn't already put that together here, so there, Riyadh. There's somebody in Saudi Arabia, and obviously this is going to be your business is going to look different. Your map is probably going to be definitely different than this. Um, Most likely, it's just going to be concentrated to a single region, or maybe just a slightly wider region. Depends on what business you're in. Um, but we can click into this locations tab here real fast, and it'll further break down, all the countries, the number of users, the percentage of the active users, and under the audience tab, there's a further breakdown of all the location information. So you can see over, the lifetime of your website, where has all your traffic come from. You can see over the last month or day. You can break down any way that you'd like. But I think that, for a small business, this information is vitally important. So where your customers are coming from, and it helps you target them through advertising, through better marketing, through more reach out. And it's a very informative data collection element of Google Analytics that really helps business owners kind of run a more refined marketing operation. So we'll go ahead and skip to the audience and then the subsection of overview. And here you can see this is just on a per day basis. It measures the number of users that are visiting the site. You can see this quick little pie chart, the percentage of returning visitors to new visitors. And this becomes very important when you're considering that a returning visitor is a repeat customer, in a sense. And it's cheaper to get a customer to return than it is to acquire a new customer, right? So you want this returning visitor number to be, kind of a significant slice of the pie. And if it's not, that's telling in itself. And if it is, that's also telling in itself. And the nuances and the intricacies of why these numbers are what they are, we'll get into at a later time in a different video. But just a quick snapshot, you can see that. So they have, of the 13,800 users, 11,600 of them are new, which means that this number, so you have 34,000 or 3,488 returning users. And that's telling in itself. And again, like I said, we'll get into that in a later time. But all this information is useful in for different reasons for different people. You know, we'll keep kind of moving through here and just give you the brief glimpse overview of what is available to you in the Google Analytics user interface, the type of information that you can leverage on behalf of your business. So you can see that this breaks down quite a bit of information. You know, there's a demographics tab, the geographic tab, which we were just kind of looking at with that global map. Um, the technology that people are using, what sort of mobile devices they're using, the user flow. So, how are they progressing through your site? Which, they're landing on the home page and then they're going to the About Us page and then they're going to the Contact Us page. Analytics will measure that flow so you can see how people are interacting with your website. And if you find that people are dropping off in that flow, you can address that break off point and go back and take a look at, why is it that they're leaving on the About Us page, for example? Like, what is it about that page in particular that is not interesting to people? It's not engaging. It's causing them to leave. Um, so we'll get into more of that at a later time. But just we'll move on to the acquisition and the sub tab overview. And you'll see here, as this implies, this is how you're acquiring your online users. So the vast majority of people that visit the Google Merchandise shop are typing in googlemerchandise.com or whatever the specific URL is. I don't actually know. But if this was your business, it would be, joeshardware.com. That's what they would type in, and that'd be considered a direct acquisition. If Joe's Hardware had a Google ad campaign going, and people were clicking on those ads, and that's what this number would be. So 9% of your total users are coming via that method. And if we'll get into this in a little bit later date, but if you can calculate that 9% of your users are coming from Google ads and you're spending X number of dollars, and then through further analysis of your data, you see that those paid search users are completing, goals. They're completing transactions. They're actually buying things from you at maybe a higher rate than, say, even the direct users. That would be very telling, because maybe if that's the case, maybe you spend a little bit more on your advertising, because obviously there's appears to be a correlation between the paid search people and revenue for your business. So, over time, you're going to get spikes. It's important to be mindful. You have to go about this in a big picture sort of approach, where you want to aggregate this information and you want to analyze it over time, because you're going to get spikes, especially, in Western New York. It's a lot of things are very seasonal, like we have winter for half the year. It seems like. So if you have a business that relies on good weather, you're gonna see a lot more spikes. If you're a restaurant that's open year round, you're gonna have fewer spikes, most likely. Just a couple of examples. So this tab, if you're running Google Ads, if you set up your Google Search Console, which is another video in itself that we'll get into. If you have social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, this will show you what percentage of your users are being acquired via, Facebook or Instagram, and then any other sort of campaigns that you have that are out there that would drive traffic to your website. So again, just a brief little quick look at that. We'll get into the overview of the behavior tab here, and you'll see that I believe that the behavior tab is one of the more important things. It's like, yes, you want to know who your audience is, how you're acquiring them, but what is it that they're actually doing on your web page once they finally arrive? Once you've actually got them, what is it that they're doing? And this tab will break that down for you and give you a better understanding of how people are actually interacting with your website. So, over the course of the last week on the Google Merchandise webpage, you'll see that there's been a total of 77,000 page views. And if we flash back, there were 14,000 users, in that same time period. So those 14,000 users are creating, they're viewing 77,000 pages, which is, that would be, that's very good. That's what every website I think would sort of hope to achieve. Um, the average time spent on each page would be, in this case is 54 seconds. So think about that. Like in today's day and age, how often is anybody spending any time on a single web page? You know, for the most part, you just scroll through, you click, you look for half a second, and then you're on to the next thing. You click and click, and then you're moving through. But for the Google Merchandise Store, apparently, they have a very high average time spent on the page. Um, the bounce rate here, I don't remember. I think I kind of alluded to it earlier. The bounce rate refers to if somebody lands on your homepage or however they initially arrive at your website. Um, what are they doing? Are they immediately leaving? If they immediately leave and they don't even scroll through, they don't click on anything, they don't do anything, that is considered a bounce. And if every single user arrived at your website and then they immediately bounced, that would be 100% bounce rate. And that would be, I guess, in the world of Google Analytics, that would be what I would consider a red flag. Like that would be a major issue that you would really have to, drill down into and solve, because obviously there's something going on with your website that, is not doing your business any good. And more than likely, it could mean that your customers have a lesser opinion about your web page, and hopefully that doesn't translate into a lesser opinion of your brand and of your business in general. But a bad website that nobody interacts with is generally not a good thing for a business. It's kind of, they tend to sort of go hand in hand. So, the lower the bounce rate, the better. One of my clients, they have a bounce rate of about 4 or 5%, which I think is got to be a record. I don't know how that's even really possible. I do. We'll get into that later. But I think that the fact that if you can have that low of a bounce rate, that's a goal for any business. I think that's what you're targeting. And the exit percentage is measuring, on a per page website, on a per page basis of a website. So let's say you have 5 pages that comprise your entire website. It will look at, on a per page basis, what the exit rate is on that page. So if you see that it's not considered a bounce, because let's say somebody lands on your homepage and then they go to the About Us page. The exit percentage would measure if that person then left from that page. So they've had an interaction, they've had multiple interactions on your site, and they get to your About Us page, or they get to the Contact Us page, and then that's when they elect to leave your website. That would be the exit percentage. And again, you'd want that to be, pretty low on a per page basis. Obviously, you have to leave. If you go to any website, you have to leave at some point. So it's going to be there. That exit percentage is going to be a real thing, and it's going to be, measurable, and it's going to, you just don't want it to be too high, on a single page. You wouldn't want one page to have an exit percentage of, say, 90%, and then another page have an exit percentage of, say, 10%. You'd want to find a more of a balance there. Okay. Again, this behavior tab, this behavior section, I will spend a lot more time on. I think it's vitally important. But for now, it's the overview. So we're going to go ahead and, we'll click on this conversions tab. I think that for the most part, this is more of an advanced type of, subject to get into. So I really am not going to spend much time on this, but I alluded to it earlier that, goals and conversion rate are important things to a business, and they're things that you might not necessarily really think about. It may have never dawned on you to measure, how many people are going from the home page to putting something in their shopping cart. That would be a very important thing to know. Ultimately, I think what happens is that a lot of business owners, especially if you're selling um, products and services online, they're really just kind of looking at the number of maybe cart abandonments and the number of actual completed transactions and then the dollar value of those completed transactions. But there's so much more that can be measured to give you a better understanding of why maybe people are abandoning their cart. Maybe they're not putting something in the cart in the first place. So I think you can set up these goals and measure that conversion rate, and it'll give you a better sense of how successful your website is being in driving sales and driving revenue and getting customers to complete the things that you would hope they would complete. So here, just a real quick, it's measuring the abandonment rate. You know, all these different goals. So in this case, in the case of the Google merchandise, web page, they've created the four goals that they're measuring here. They've got goal one is a purchase completed. Goal two is engaged users, which typically means they're clicking on things and they're scrolling and they're moving around throughout the website. So that would be an engaged user. A registration, in this case, it would be a user registration. So that's definitely an important thing that you'd want to be able to measure. If you're trying to get a lot of users to register, why not measure how many are actually doing it versus how many are not doing it? And then enter the entire checkout process. So this would be telling if you can see that 750 people in this example, they enter the checkout process and then maybe half of them don't complete it. I think that this would be extremely telling. Maybe they're, in that case, if that was true, maybe there's something glitchy, with the checkout process. Maybe, customers aren't able to enter a credit card number, for example, or, if there's some hindrance that's preventing them from completing the checkout. So that's something that you'd want to know like immediately. You have customers that are on the hook and they're not able to give you the money that they want to give you. So that would be vitally, vitally important to know. And again, that's, this is the goals section. So these are things that we can build, and it would be totally customizable to whatever it is that you're looking to measure for your business. And so that kind of takes us right to the end. We've completed a quick overview summary of all the different reporting features and functions of Google Analytics. We'll just kind of click back on the home page here to bring us back full circle. And, we hope that you found this to be, insightful. I think that ultimately, if you're still watching right now, then you understand the importance of Google Analytics. You understand the importance of data aggregation and then the analysis of that information and how it can really help you run a better business. It can help you provide more value to your customers, and it can help you generate more revenue, and it'll help you identify waste areas also. Like maybe it tells you that you're spending too much money on Google ads. That's not an effective marketing campaign for you. These are all kinds of things that ultimately will affect the bottom line. And it'll, like I said in the beginning, we're trying to reduce headaches. We're trying to help business owners be more knowledgeable of their business. We're trying to help them leverage data into meaningful insight and action on behalf of their business. And we hope that you found this introductory video to Google Analytics in line with that theme. We are going to be, this is just the first of what's going to be many videos in Google Analytics, and the other topics that we're going to cover. We're going to get into Google My Business. We're going to get into Google Trends, which is a very kind of under the radar tool that's available for free to business owners, which we'll definitely get into. We're going to get into IBIS World. If you're not familiar, IBIS World is an industry and market research company, and they provide some of the most top of the line industry reports that you've ever seen. We'll take you into that world. We'll show you all of the information that's available from a market research perspective for whatever industry. If you're a pizza business, you're an Italian restaurant, they have, obviously you think that those two kind of are one and the same, but IBIS World will break those two things out into two separate industry reports and provide you insight into either of those that are, it'll blow your mind. Any industry you can think of, construction, automotive, anything that you can think of. We'll get into IBIS World. We're also going to be doing various product reviews. We recently bought a GoPro, and we've been posting videos on behalf of a couple of our other clients using GoPro, the editing software. The response has been just unbelievable. So we hope that you look forward to that. And I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this video up. And thank you very much for watching. We hope that you come back. Please subscribe. Go ahead and like this video. And we're trying to make the world a better place. We're trying to lead this revolution in small and medium-sized business management. And, we spent about a decade working for big business in Manhattan, and trying to take that big business, mindset and apply it in a small business setting. So please subscribe, stay tuned, and we hope that you have a wonderful day. Later.